Gooseworks has been hiding things in plain sight for months, and now that episode 8 is out, fans are finally connecting the dots. And what they're finding doesn't just explain the past, it might be telling us exactly how the show ends. Let's break it all down. So here's where we start. Months before episode 8 even dropped, Gooseworks had already quietly posted a sketch in her old public sketchbook that nobody paid much attention to at the time. But after the episode came out, fans looked back at it and realized she basically spoiled one of the most emotional scenes in the whole thing. The sketch showed Kinger with this specific expression paired with the words, "Everybody's gone," and that matches almost exactly with the scene in episode 8 where Kinger has to face the reality that everyone from the original circus, including Queenie, his wife, had already abstracted long before Pomni ever arrived. Gooseworks drew that moment before the episode existed publicly. She hid the emotional core of the episode in a casual sketchbook post, and nobody noticed until after the fact. And here's why that matters beyond just being a cool detail, because this isn't a one-time thing. Fans started going back through her older sketches and found that this pattern of foreshadowing keeps repeating, which leads us directly into episode 9. There's one sketch in particular that fans are now treating as the biggest hint we have about the finale. It shows Kinger saying he's this close to freaking losing it, except he doesn't say freaking. And the reason this feels so significant ties into something that happened at the very end of episode 8, Zubul dropping an actual swear word on screen, something that previously never happened in the show. The implication is that as the circus decays and Kane's control breaks down, the content filters are going down with it. The circus members can now say and do things they couldn't before. So if Kinger has a full breakdown moment in the finale where he finally cracks, that sketch might be Gooseworks telling us it's coming. Given her track record, that's not something to dismiss. Now let's talk about something that gave us a completely new perspective on the characters who were gone long before Pomni arrived. An official designer at Glitch Productions shared that during episode 8's production, they finally got to fully develop the designs of the abstracted circus members, characters they'd only roughly sketched during the pilot, and they released new artwork giving us a proper front-facing look at some of them for the first time ever. Wormo had the longest design journey of the group. Inspired by Worm on a String toys, he went through 3 separate versions before landing on the final design. One version had him in a sweater with actual hands. Another gave him a completely different lower body that looked more like a toy figure, visually close to how Zubul looks in the actual show, which is a strange coincidence. Bizco gave the animator the most trouble. They struggled to nail down a direction and ended up pulling from 90s toys and cartoons for reference. 2 versions were released, and the final one has a clock built into his midsection, while the earlier draft is slimmer and has no clock at all. Ratty, the animator, apparently had a clear vision for from day one, yet still ended up with 2 versions. The only real difference between them is stripes. The final design has them, the earlier one doesn't. Simple change, but it shifts the whole character feel. Spike is the one that stands out emotionally. Across every depiction of him, including this new behind-the-scenes artwork, he consistently has this lost, sad expression. That's not an accident. It suggests Spike struggled to adjust to circus life more than any of the others, and there might be an untold story there. And then there's Scratch, the yellow dog character who turned out to have more going on than anyone realized. In the English version of episode 8, Scratch never says a single word, but the German dub actually gave him spoken dialogue that got completely cut from the English release. And when fans translated those lines, they revealed something genuinely important. His dialogue translated to something like, "Is there any way out of here? What even is this place?" Which tells us Scratch was actively trying to find an exit from the very beginning, and the surrounding lore confirms he was the first circus member to ever abstract. He was the original tragedy of the show, given secret dialogue in another language, and most of the fan base had no idea. Beyond that, the design reveal for Scratch also showed him hunched over in a 4-legged posture, because apparently Scratch would sometimes walk on all 4s during his time in the circus. He wasn't just dog-shaped, he actually behaved like one. While all that character lore was dropping, one of the official episode 8 animators also came forward and shared that a couple of key scenes in the episode looked completely different during earlier production stages. And these weren't minor tweaks, these were full creative direction changes. The first involves Kane's musical performance segment. Originally, some of those scenes were going to swap out the regular Kane model for a more digitalized, pixel art styled version of the character, like a glitchy, retro-looking Kane rather than what we'd actually got in the final cut. They experimented with that direction for a while before ultimately scrapping it and going with artwork drawn by Gooseworks herself instead. And honestly, looking back at how that sequence played out, the Gooseworks drawings fit the emotional tone of that moment way better than a pixel art version probably would have. But the second change is the one that really makes you think about how differently episode 8 could have landed. You know that sequence near the end where the digital circus starts physically collapsing after Kane gets deleted? The floor cracking open, the world falling apart. That entire visual was originally planned to look nothing like what we saw. In an earlier version, the ground breaking open had this particle effect where it would crumble and dissolve into small floating fragments, almost like digital dust scattering into nothing. Compare that to the final version, which just fades into a cold, empty void with barely anything there at all. Two completely different feelings. The particle version would have felt more chaotic and active. The final version feels hollow and silent, like everything just stopped existing. And given the emotional weight of that moment, the emptiness of the final cut might have been a very deliberate choice. Now for one last thing before we get into what all of this means for the finale, because Glitch Productions also dropped an official post-episode 8 image that gave us a look at all the circus members together in what's left of the digital circus, and there's one detail in it that's easy to scroll past without thinking twice about, but it's actually pretty telling. Jax is standing off to the side, not with the group, not even close to them. While everyone else is huddled together in the wreckage, Jax is physically separated from all of it, like he's in the same space but not really part of it. And look, if you've been watching this show from the beginning, that image shouldn't surprise you. Jax has always operated this way. He isolates himself, he keeps emotional distance from everyone around him, he deflects instead of connecting. That's been his entire character pattern across every episode. But here's the difference now. The circus isn't stable anymore. Kane is gone. The world is decaying, and the safety net that used to exist around all of these characters doesn't really exist anymore. In that kind of environment, Jax's habit of pulling away from everyone isn't just a personality flaw. It becomes genuinely dangerous. Because if things go wrong in the finale and Jax is already disconnected from the people around him, there's nobody there to pull him back. That image might not just be a casual character moment. It might be foreshadowing exactly how Jax's arc ends in episode 9. So when you put all of this together, the design history of the original circus members, Gooseworks' pattern of hiding future events in plain sight, what that Kinger sketch might be telling us, and now Jax slowly drifting away from everyone. It's pretty clear that episode 9 is going to hit different from anything we've seen in this show before. The groundwork has been laid across multiple episodes, across behind-the-scenes posts, across old sketchbook drawings that seemed random at the time. Nothing was accidental. Episode 9 is going to be the biggest thing this show has ever done. Subscribe so you don't miss it when the finale finally drops.